Hey guys, it's Practical Psychology here, and in this video, we're going to be reviewing the book Outwitting the Devil. So the book Outwitting the Devil was written by Napoleon Hill, who also wrote the famous Think and Grow Rich, which is a book that has been stated as one of the top 10 self-help books for over 50 years. Now in this review, you will learn why it's hard for you to find your passion, how to stay away from being a drifter, which was what Napoleon called people who didn't know their purpose, and 7 specific traits to seek for mental, physical, and financial success. So most of the book is actually set up as an interview between Napoleon and the devil, but the first chapter is how Napoleon learned to be successful and why he is accredited to write this book, or at least have this interview. Andrew Carnegie gave him an idea to interview all of these successful people in the world, along with those who failed so that he wasn't biased, and summarized everything that he learned. Andrew warned him though that it would take over 20 years, but Napoleon basically did it, and put everything he learned in Think and Grow Rich and this book. Now, a lot of people that know about Think and Grow Rich don't actually know about this book, but I found this book was way easier to read. So in the second chapter, Napoleon talks about the importance of giving value before trying to get something in every relationship, and I would say this is right in line with the whole idea that Gary Vaynerchuk had in his book Jab, 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 Right Hook. He says, material and financial fortunes, when reduced to their most liquid terms, are measurable in the terms of bank balances. Bank balances are no stronger than banks, which I basically take as a note to remember that relationships will always be more valuable than money or material success, and you can raise the value of a relationship by adding experiences to it. So the third chapter starts the tango between back and forth of Napoleon Hill asking the devil questions. There's lots of cool stuff in here, and it's a super easy read. The devil boasts that he has 98% of the world in his control, and that he uses 6 main power sources to control it: fear of poverty, fear of criticism, fear of ill health, fear of loss of love, fear of old age, and the fear of death. Have you ever been afraid to accomplish something from these fears? Think of how many businesses in the past have failed because of these, and how many companies are thriving because they finally got past some of these fears. For example, McDonald's was built from a man who was almost 60 years old. Do you think he was afraid of old age? What about Tesla? It was started because Elon Musk wanted to be criticized. In fact, he completely blew over the fear of criticism. He wanted to change how electric cars were seen. The devil says the opposition to these powers, these fears, are love, faith, hope, and optimism, which certainly are seen in thriving businesses and successful people. The devil says his greatest enemies are those who inspire people to act. People like Socrates, Confucius, Abraham Lincoln. Can you think of anybody else? Maybe Gary Vaynerchuk? I hope my channel has been successful at giving you the tools, knowledge, and motivation to act. One thing that I found interesting in this chapter is that the devil says, I have corrupted the minds of the young by teaching them to drink and smoke, but they have baffled me through their tendency to think for themselves. Napoleon also states in the book about the negativity of cigarettes, which the devil says break down the power of persistence and endurance. Now, this is important because you have to remember this book was written in 1938, a time before scientific evidence of nicotine and other chemicals in the cigarettes were deemed addictive or destructive. My favorite chapter is chapter 4. This is where Napoleon gets the devil to give out his greatest trick, and that is leading people to become drifters. Now, a drifter is someone who is influenced or controlled by their circumstances outside of their own mind. Sounds like someone who's not proactive, right? For example, someone who has a lot of opinions, but what you will notice about them is that they are not their own opinions. The devil says they are his opinions from other people. Drifters also don't know what they want in life, and since they aren't exercising or actually using their brain, the devil gains control of it. Now, how many people do you know that are like this? Have you scrolled through Facebook lately? The second greatest trick the devil has in winning people over is to persuade them to his thinking before they are even born. Now, Napoleon figures out many people are born into certain patterns of thinking simply because that's the way their parents thought, and I'm sure that you can relate. One great quote that I circled twice is, "The mind is nothing more than the sum total of one's habits." This means if you take all the habits in your life or someone else's life, you can accurately predict where they will be in the future. Later, the devil explains that if all the habits created early in a child's life aren't conducive to them becoming a drifter, he will make them a drifter in school. The majority of people become drifters in school because they have no idea of their future occupation. They have no definitiveness of purpose, and we'll talk about this term later. The devil says school children are not taught to develop and use their own minds, but to adopt and use the thoughts of others. And I really like this quote. I won't make a comment on it, but how do you feel about this? Leave a comment below. He also says children are sent to school to make good grades and to learn how to memorize, not to learn what they want in life. So do you know how powerful this is? What if there was a class in high school that taught you how to find out what you wanted in life? One that gave you the time to prepare and actually think about what was important to you and how to find out what you're good at. I bet this would be the most valuable class of all high school curriculum. Anyways, there are other ways to become a drifter than to be born into drifting parents or going through a horrible school system, and I'll list a couple ways before moving on to how to be the opposite of a drifter. The devil says he uses marriage. I cause married people to bicker and nag over money matters. I cause them to quarrel over how to raise their children. I engage them in unpleasant controversies between their friends. And my favorite, I keep them so busy finding fault with one another that they never have time to do anything else to break their habit of drifting. The devil says he uses jobs and occupations. I teach people to get the first job they can and to find the most secure and reliable job they can, so that I can control them easier through fear of poverty. The devil also mentions money. I teach people bad spending habits and forbid them from tracking their budgets, which causes them to have an even greater fear of poverty. So now that we know what a drifter is and how to become a drifter, I'll teach you what Napoleon said about how to become a so-called non-drifter and to find your purpose. One of the most important things to a non-drifter is their definitiveness of purpose, specifically their reason for being. Now the Japanese call this ikigai, and a study done found that those with a reason to live when they wake up in the morning have 3 times the chance of reaching the age of 100. Now there are literally 3 pages in this book with a list of things to do to become a non-drifter, but I'll give you a short summary. Ideas are the beginning of human achievement. Teach all students how to recognize practical ideas that may be of benefit in helping them acquire whatever they want of life. Teach students how to budget and how to use time. And above all, teach the truth that time is the greatest asset available to human beings, and the cheapest. Now this is cool because this was written almost 100 years ago, and this thought is starting to gain popularity. Teach the students the basic motives by which people are influenced. So basically the devil's saying, for someone to have a purpose, teach them how to stay motivated and how to motivate their friends. Teach children how habits become fixed, how to create them, and which ones to break. If this doesn't sound familiar, check out some of my recent videos on the habit harvester. Teach children that cigarettes, alcohol, narcotics, and overindulgence in sex will lead to the habit of drifting. I thought it was really important that Napoleon added, do not forbid these evils, just explain them. Teach children there is no unsolvable problem. I would say Elon Musk got taught this at a very young age. Teach children to be true to themselves and at all times, since they cannot please everybody, therefore to do a good job of pleasing themselves. This basically means self-love. So to end this review, I want to give you 7 steps Napoleon gave to achieve spiritual, mental, physical, and financial freedom. Number 1 is definitiveness of purpose. Basically, find your reason on this planet. Wake up every morning knowing what it is. Tip number 2 is self-mastery. Learn how to be disciplined and persistent when it's not easy. Tip number 3 is learning from adversity. Now, if you have a purpose, if you know your reason on this planet, learning from adversity will come easier because you will know not to give up, and one obstacle is not going to derail you from your purpose. Tip number 4 is controlling your environment. Learn that you are the sum of the 5 people that you spend most of your time with, and control your environment. If going to a bar late at night is not conducive to your goal, don't do it. And if hanging up your budget on your wall every month will help you reach your goal quicker, then do it. Control your environment. Tip number 5 is time. Now, if you've never read the book, The Compound Effect, I highly recommend you read it. But it basically takes this concept and expands it into something immense. Basically learn that time will compound, and any habit that you have will be 100 times better or worse with time. Tip number 6 is harmony. Now, I didn't really understand this one, but it had a lot to do with mixing time and your environment. The last tip, number 7, is caution. This is Napoleon's word for thinking before you act, which basically means planning ahead. Hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you want to read or listen to the book for free, check out the Amazon and Audible links below, respectively. Thank you so much for your time, and subscribe if you want more.